Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Getting Salty Experience. Tonight we have a new segment called The Author's Corner. It's a guide. It's a guide. We will present literary works. We'll present literary works from firemen across the world.
Mental case.
You look great.
As always, I'm your host, Cooby Coops. Well, we're going to go by pen names tonight. So my name is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. You might know some of my works, including Flex My Titties and Honey, I Shrunk My Shirts. I'm joined tonight by Louis F.U. Fitzgerald, author of Fuck All of You, Leave Me Alone. And of course, as always, we've got Pete DeProby, and his pen name is Charles. I'm Such a Dickens. And he wrote the famous book, Oh My God, Where's My Safe Space? Bestseller. Bestseller. Oh my God, where's my safe space? And I think, in fact, he's working. He's working on a new self-help book, What to Do When the Power Goes Out. I'm Such a Dickens.
Shut the computer off and keep drinking is what I've learned.
And run around your house.
So, Pete, I also...
Oh, my God.
Pete, I also sent you, for many of you who might saw me on the circuit when I was back, giving seminars with the colleges, Pete, right, as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And Pete, you might have a little clip of that, don't you, Pete?
I do. You were asked many, many questions. This is actually my favorite answer to my favorite question you were ever asked.
Wrong! Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.
That is good.
Words to live by, my friends. Words. So tonight we have a very special guest and acclaimed author, Joe Kearney. Joe.
Hey. Hello, Joe.
Giuseppe.
We're so sorry for this, Joe. We apologize.
Thank you for joining us on our very first The Author's Corner. Where, as you know, we bring literary genius, little gems to the fire department community. Also, we have a couple other authors. We have a few other authors in the chat room tonight. We have Fat Daddy Ray, Sir Walt Whitless, and he wrote to My Guideline to Abs from the Fat Guy by Sir Walter Whitless. Also in the chat is Hank William, My Hands Are Shaking Spear, who wrote the self-help book Staying Up Past 8 p.m. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Joey Kearney. Joey, thanks for coming.
Hey, Joey.
Beautiful.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Our first ever Author's Corner. As you know, there are a lot of smart. I'm smart too, Mikey. There's smart
Mikey,
firemen
I'm
out
smart.
there. We got some smart firemen who do more than just fight fires, and Joe Kearney happens to be one of them.
Look at the wall behind him, for God's sakes.
Did you read all of... Wait a minute. Did you read all those books?
No, they're a prop.
You liar.
Oh, you wrote them all.
No, I didn't write them all. I wish I did. Some of them, not
Joe always had a book in the firehouse, right? He
did,
always had a book in his
Yes.
hands.
I was doing some research on Joe, and basically got the same feedback from every person I asked, and they all said there's a fine line between insane and genius. And Joe,
I fell on the south of the border. I could have
a
insane.
fine line of it.
There is no doubt about that with Joe.
And insanity.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I was south of that border into the insanity.
I also, Joe, I also got a few texts. They want to know if we had at least 4 or 5 hours for this podcast lined up because we didn't know. Well, if we had to bring pillows and blankets because when Joey gets going, when Joey gets going, he gets going. That's for sure.
Yes. So we're gonna have to keep Joey on the straight and narrow because
on a short leash.
He likes to be very verbose. And he likes to explain a lot of things. So we'll keep Joe on the straight and narrow tonight as we talk about his book, which is called A View from the Backstep by Joseph Kearney. There it is, A View from the Backstep. Look,
Nice,
he's
Joe.
got a pen name, J.M. Kearney. J.M.
Kearney.
I love it.
Yeah. That's incognito.
The Harlem Shuffle.
Yep. There you go. Oh yeah, and this one is called. It's gonna be. It's a 3-book series, right, Joe? A View from the Backstep. The first one being the Harlem Shuffle, 314 pages long. It's a quick reader. So let's just talk about how you got on the job first, what you were doing. I know you went to college first. You're one of those educated guys. You got your undergrad and you got your master's, correct? Tell us a little about that, kid.
When going to college, I took an engineering degree. Then I wound up going further to got a master's degree in environmental science. Didn't really use much of them. I didn't like the office work, so I had missed the 77 exam because of school. So I wasn't really just because of school. I just didn't take it. I was in school at the time, but I just didn't take it. All my friends, my brother Jimmy took it. So I wound up taking the 82 exam. Both exams, the 77.
Did your brother get on? Did your brother get on?
Yes. Yeah, he was on in 81. He spent all his time in 219, 105 in Brooklyn.
Oh, right down the block from me. I was in 210.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was
West Point.
Dean Street. Yeah, West Point.
Yep, Dean Street.
And
Dean
he loved it. A lot of our friends, Pat Clancy, I think he was captain of 274 for a while before he got out. Another really good guy. There were a lot of guys, all the Staten Island guys who got on. So took the 82 exam. The 77 and 82 exams were sued. Different women's groups sued both exams. They were about to lottery the list just as my class was going to go in February. And the judge at the very last minute decided not to because they proved mathematically that lotterying the list wouldn't help any females get on the job quicker. So they stayed the course, I guess. And for me, it's a lifesaver. And it made me appreciate it like every minute because now you're looking at it could have been so easily taken away.
Oh my God! It could have flipped the other way so fast.
Oh, so easily. Absolutely. It's a miracle it didn't. So I was appointed to 35 engine. I think I went in, my first day of probie school was May 17th, and I got out. I think my first tour was March 17th. My first tour in the Firehouse was May 3rd. That's how fast probie school was back. It's like
of 86, right?
Yeah.
In 86 you got
it was like I think they gave you an extra week of peace officer training back then.
There was always a week of peace officer training.
I don't even know what that is, but okay, whatever. Peace officer.
They still had the scaling ladder drills at the at the lab.
We had those. Yeah. But your dad actually retired as a 3-star assistant borough commander, right? He's the one who started it off. But he really didn't want you to get on the job, correct? You or your brother?
He didn't encourage any of us to take the job. He had 4 sons, and he didn't encourage anybody. And one of his points was, if anything happened to somebody, he didn't want to feel I talked him into taking a job, and then
I got you.
So I could understand it. But growing up, he studied like a madman all when I was a little kid. And went up the ranks pretty quickly. And but they did study groups at the house. And every guy who came into the house as a fireman, they were like, when I was like 8 years old, they were like adult 8-year-olds. They were all fun guys, and they all looked forward to going to work. So when I started hating the idea of office work, that's the only civil service exam I took was the fire department exam.
So Joe, being such a school guy, why didn't you decide to study it all to become an officer? Wasn't interested you?
I think part of it, I've always said to somebody, I think that part of it was seeing what my dad went through. I just didn't want to spend my time. John Goss, who broke me in, was the artist who did the cover painting on that, it was called Nice Job, Kid. He used to say to me, I read a lot of books, which he did too. And he said to me, I read a lot of books. None of them are the right ones, meaning the fire department books, right? And who knew? I mean, I had no idea at the time, but I did the same thing. I read a ton of books, like, you know, in my time, and I never really, I mean, I read Lattice 3, and I read what we needed to for company drills and things like that.
To become a better fireman, right?
Right, exactly. But not, you know, I never really got into the studying, and never took a test really. I was going to go, I wanted to be one of those guys like John never was on the, never drove. He was always on the backstep for his whole time, right? Like 32 years, 33 years.
No shit.
And he was
and
where
did he stay? Yeah, where did he finish his career?
I believe he spent all his time in 35. He got on in like
shit.
62, so he went through all the war years, right? And they were busy. You know, that was the funny thing. When I got there in 35, you had Keith Nicolello, from 30 Truck. He was up at 30 Truck when I was there, and I used to catch a million details because they had a lot of guys about 15 years on the job up that way.
None of them wanted to go on the detail.
And the older guys who spent all the time in 35 when they were rocking back in the, you know, the guys were 20 years on, whenever a detail came up, the probie got it because they didn't want to deal with the thing of like, hey, you guys ain't doing nothing. And, you know, So
Joe, that was the 35 was the Firehouse. They were right around the corner from is that the two firehouses that were next to each other?
Correct. 36 engine was literally right around the corner. The whole year that I was there, I took a bunch of details to 30 Truck and 59 engine, and one detail in the whole year to 36.
And it was around the corner.
Yes, they had
literally around the corner, like
literally
on
one
the same
block away. Right.
Yeah.
We were between 124th and 125th on 3rd Avenue, and they were on 125th on Lexington, which was one block over from 3rd. And they were all senior guys. When I got there on the detail, I find one of the guys and I go, where do I put my gear? Okay, you're sitting there, right? And he just kind of pointed to the the jump seat. Then he goes, I go, what do I have? And he goes, we'll tell you when we get there. So, like, right away, you know that if it's something good, somebody else is taking it.
Yeah.
If it's something crappy, like a car fire or something like that, you can have it.
Yeah, you might have it. Right.
They're not going to let you have anything really good, I guess, you know. But, you know, that was how they worked. 59 and 30 at the time had the old FDNY ambulance. I don't know if anybody remembers that. They used to have their own ambulance. This is before we were ever part of EMS. And it was an old box truck. And he'd have these 3 really old guys, like 30 plus years on the job, right? And the engine officer was supposed to be, he was technically the officer for the house. So he was technically their boss. But most of the engine officers had less time on earth than these guys had on the job, right? And with that amount of time, and you know, these guys probably started their careers in the 50s. So they liked having a couple of pops and everything. Mm-hmm. And a few times I was there.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Could have been. We heard about it.
Yeah. I was there one day when these 2 guys are standing in front of the lieutenant at 30 Truck, and they're like weaving back and forth, and they're going, hello. He looks at the other guy and goes, we're going to go out. And then you see the lieutenant looking at him like, oh my God, like what's worse? Because when they were in the Firehouse, they created tons of mayhem, you know, abusing all the younger guys, which was virtually everybody else. And, you know, on the road, they're worried about them, getting killed. Right. But he looks at the guys and he's like, yeah. and they just take off. They just go them the rest of the night. You know, but it was just hilarious.
Could have happened. Maybe it happened.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Maybe it happened. Yeah. They had a back room that nobody went into, it was kind of separate from the house. So they used to call the place the Harlem Zoo, you know, which was, you know, it was really it was great group of guys, you know. They used to call Keith Nicolello, he was Nick the Dick. You know?
He doesn't like that one.
Oh,
Ixnay on the ick day.
Oh, he didn't like that. Okay. There was a boss he had over there that he was very fond of. Kenny O'Brien was another really good guy, and Keith made a song up for him. You know, a song where the men of Ladder 3-0. You know, we go in with Kenny O. You know.
So how long you? Yeah, Joe.
No, go ahead.
How long you in 35 for then?
Just a little over a year.
That's
my father came in from assistant borough commander of Staten Island, and he moved over to work with a friend of his, Matthew J. Farrell. And I was looking at early on, I think I said was 69 and 28. 59-30 were in our battalion at the time. They're not in the 12th anymore, but they were at the time. And we had the old 5th Division in Harlem. So they 69-28 was with 80 and 23 and 37 and 40 in the 16th. And I was thinking of going, maybe I'll try and go to 69 and 28. And then my father, when he was coming over, he goes, would you mind going to the Bronx? You know, this way there'd be no conflict of interest. Like, for instance, if anything happened in one of the other firehouses, he didn't want to have somebody saying, oh, yeah, 35-14 didn't get
Put a
you
son.
know, this kid there. You know, so he wound up, I wound up going up to 43 engine and 59 truck after that. And that was a completely different experience. You know, 35-14, he almost never went out the door for no reason. You know, every once in a while you get like a 1092, like a false alarm, you know, when school let out, but you didn't go all night running for no reason and stuff like that. And most of their jobs
59
were at night.
was running all the time. Yeah.
43, 59, all night long, the ARS boxes, and 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday afternoon, it would be blowing out 4 windows. You might get one phone call, or maybe it's an ERS box.
Right.
And it's out 4 windows, you know, and you never saw it anywhere. You're looking at that going, wow, yeah, like nobody else reported this. It was like one phone call. And yeah, that's the way it was.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was a different world, you know, completely.
So who was it?
World.
That was Camaraderie was there, right? Was he there?
John was there. John Camaraderie, Mike Feiner, Jimmy Zodowick. I don't know if you know him. Jimmy was there. He was a great guy. Eddie Marcoux in the truck. Jimmy Ginty. Really good crew. They had Patty Kincannon. Trying to think who else.
Pretty solid names there, man.
Patty, Timmy Kelly, Kevin Flanagan. You know, really, you know, there was an awesome group of guys. In the engine, you had Eddie.
Where's
Heffley.
all the Irish guys? I mean, where's all the Italian guys, Joe? No Italian guys up there?
You know, what was funny was there was a guy in the truck, Vito Emanuele. They used to call him Uncle Vito. Nicest guy. And he was hurt very badly. I'm not sure if this is a great story, but he was hurt badly when they were as a lieutenant in 4 truck. They were rescuing some guys they had a scaffolding collapse, right? So they were shoring it up, and they were bringing the guys up from this scaffolding that let go on the side of a building in Manhattan. And I won't mention names, but like there was a ESU came up to the floor where they were working, and allegedly, what happened was Vito said to them, I'm sorry you guys even came up, because everything's done. We're just getting ready to bring the guys in. And the sergeant from the ESU, like, body slammed him. You know, as he turned around, he body slammed him until he got really badly hurt. And
oh, shit.
The worst thing was the department didn't want any kind of lawsuits and stuff like that. So they kind of like pressured him to squelch it, you know. And
my ass.
It's like I said, there was still, I think that was when Dinkins was the mayor. There was that battle of the badges. Yeah. When, you had maybe it was a little beyond that, but we still had the battle of the badges going on a little bit, where there was some hard feelings between the 2 departments. It's gotten a lot better, you know, for the most part, I think, right? I think, guys, you know, you guys would know better.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, no, it's much better.
A lot more
I mean, Manhattan was always a little tough because of the spotlight that's there, right?
Yes. Yes.
You know, and again, in Queens and Brooklyn, and, you know, there was always some little issues, but I think for the most part, it's gotten better.
It's gotten a lot
ever,
better, right? Yeah.
you know, compared to then, I'm sure.
That was
you know,
a strange incident. I think there was probably a misunderstanding, but when
I'm sure there's more to that story.
oh yeah, and I remember saying though that one of the things about Vito was he was one of those guys where, like, you know, like there's some guys where you go, oh yeah, I could see him getting a little chesty with somebody, but
He
Vito
wasn't that
Emanuele,
guy. Yeah,
he was the kind of guy that if two other people were arguing, he'd get in there and like
He'd
he
get in the
was the
middle, yeah.
peacemaker. Yeah, so he you
So
know
was the
he
Italian
was,
guy who gets it, Joe. You know what I mean?
there you go. Yeah, he was negotiating the peace. Yeah, the Irish guy would be getting ready for a rout.
A rowdy. What? So then, where did you go? So you were in. When did you go to 92 and 44? How long after that?
Well, let's see. My first 4 years were kind of crazy. I wound up the 1 year in 35, then 43. Was in there, and like I said, great group of guys in the truck. You had Joe Kearney, Tommy White, Eddie Heffley, Pat Murphy in the engine. And what happened was this: there was a lieutenant in the truck, Frank Pampalone. He came back as the captain of the engine, and what was funny about it was when he was in the truck. That's where the focus of the job was. So he used to call the engine the golden cows, stuff like that, you know. And some of the truck guys kind of took it like, it seemed like there was a little more than a friendly rivalry. Like, you know, there was like a little, not dissension, but there was a little, you know, animosity between the two companies a little bit. And he kind of stirred that pot a little, you know. So when he comes back as the captain of the engine, his whole demeanor changed.
Nice,
and now it's like, now it's the job's on the knob. You know, yeah, and now the truck guys are hating on him, right? So
wherever you're at, it's the best place to be, right?
Joe, Mike
so
Everett said the same exact thing, right? He said the same.
Oh, it's
exact
hilarious.
Thing.
Yeah. Yep.
That's freaking funny, man.
Bishop was I think chief of operations at the time, and Homer Bishop spent all his time, I think, in the they said most of his time was spent in the 12th Battalion. You know, like he was a fireman in 58, and then he went up. You know, so he stayed right in that whole area, right? And he, at that point, you couldn't come right back to the borough. So he said, "Oh no, Pampalone didn't spend enough time outside the borough." So they made a deal. You can have any place you want. And at the time, 111 truck opened up, right? And Captain Pampalone took 111 truck, and of course, after that, 111 truck became where it's at, and it was like number one and first do 1075s in the city and all this stuff. Yeah. So what happened was when he left, though, John Camaraderie, Jimmy Zodowick, I think Patty Kincannon, about 6-7 guys from the truck left there, right? And I was in 21, and I worked with like group 9. So when I was working those groups, they had these middle groups that were they called them the Schmengies. They'd be up all night playing cards and everything. And I was like the junior guy. So they would go like, Joe, can you listen up for a while? Usually for the 12 by, you know, the midnight watch. And you go, yeah, you think it'll be an hour. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's still hats and horns in the kitchen, you know, playing cards, laughing. You go, I guess I'm staying with the 12 by.
You got it.
So,
yeah, don't go in there and ask any of those stupid questions.
No. So I wound up one of the lieutenants in the truck, Charlie McGrath, went back to 157 when he made captain, and Ricky Goldie was in the engine, and he became a chief too. I think he was a chief's rep in the Chiefs Union for a while too. Really good guys, and both of them were saying, we were cut off too, just like 35 was cut off by 36, 1 block away. Right behind the Firehouse was the Harlem River. You know, we had the River Park Towers right down the block.
So you guys kind of lost a lot of boxes just for that reason,
right? We went into Inwood, but we really didn't have, we're like second, third due. And the crazy thing about it back then, there was some dissension in 93 and was it 93-35? over there in Inwood, and they had a captain that some of the guys didn't like, and they would dog it, right? And a few times you'd roll
45,
up.
93, 45.
93, 45, yes. No, 93, 45 down near the George Washington Bridge. Yeah, 100% right. 95 and 36. 95,
Oh, all
36.
right, I got you.
Up in Inwood,
Okay.
near Vermilion Avenue.
Yeah, I got you. Mm-hmm.
And we roll up a few times, and 81, sometimes we beat them to the cutoffs, because they weren't that quick sometimes at that point. And we were racing 42 engine to the boxes, and they were a single engine. So we tried to get out really quick. So we'd never beat 42, but we'd sometimes beat 81. And when you'd get over there, you'd see like smoke pushing out two windows, and sometimes 95 would because they were angry at the captain. You'd see a guy at the end of the block, and he'd like wave you in, like you got it. And,
Shit.
Yeah, it was it only
Really?
happened for a couple of years, but that was one of the things where I think there was a captain in the house that they were not too fond of, and created a lot of problems, I guess.
Yeah, that doesn't really ever happen, man. I haven't heard that it happens, but you don't really hear about it too often.
No, not that. It was such a rare thing. We didn't catch much of anything over there. Those were very rare occurrences. We didn't even go over there that much. Inwood itself wasn't terrible. It wasn't like Washington Heights, like 84, 34, and some of those companies were a lot busier. Like I was saying before, Richie Goldstein and Charlie McGrath were saying, you'd probably like 42 engine more. They have a bigger area, wider area, and they were doing a lot more work than us. But 42 engine and 81 both joined were annexed into the 19th Battalion, which is originally the battalion was just two firehouses, 7533 and 4359. So then I think in 89 they added, after that contract, they added 81 because they started closing a bunch of battalions and shut down some divisions.
Right, they changed divisions, right?
Everything, yeah, definitely. It changed the whole job, So 42 became part of the 19th. So I said, I'm not transferring within the battalion.
Right.
I looked for a shop at 92-44 and got into 92, and I stayed there for the next 15 years.
Well, again, we talk about firehouses. You know what I mean? 231, 120. 92 and 44. I mean, they've been, when I was going into the academy in 1993, everybody talked about 92 and 44, and Brian Fox ended up from my class going there. So I think his father was a chief, right?
Yes.
So that those guys had those spots, pretty well lined up. You know what I mean? Any place that was a really good. I mean, obviously they go to a lot of work, but they were a solid firehouse. They had a great reputation and tradition. So and they still do today.
So if your dad was a 3-star chief, you might just wind up at 92 and 44. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
somehow, Joe. I don't know how that would happen, but amazing how things work out.
Yes.
What year was that, Joe? You went there?
I went there in March. Actually, my first tour in 92 was the night of the Happy Land Social Club fire. We didn't go.
Wow.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
We covered that on the show.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Crazy.
Where are you, Joe? On the top in that picture?
That's me on the Backstep. Yeah. And the guy here on the far right is Al Sawera, the 6'8" Engineman. Like he's not standing on anything.
He's standing on the Backstep.
Yeah.
He's not standing on the Backstep. That's classic.
That's it. and the officer is Harry Wanamaker, who was a fixture up there for years. He just a great guy. He used to buffs would come from all over, Chicago, Baltimore, and he knew all these guys, and they would ride with us and stuff like that. That's the only thing, when you had him working, sometimes you'd have like 3 or 4 extra mouths to feed, and guys would be
grumbling.
But it was great. They were really good guys. That's Joe Andruzzi in the middle again.
Yeah.
He's the only guy with his coat on.
So how long did you? Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. He was the only guy who was called. How long was I at 92.44?
No, how long did you stay in the engine? Like what,
Well,
before you
I was-
decided you want to go to the truck?
Well, what really spurred me to transfer in '94 was we had Chief Kilduff was the captain in '92. Right when I got there, it was John Gilstrap.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So John Gilstrap was the first captain, and he was a really good guy. And then when he retired, Ed Kilduff took the engine, and he was a great guy. And what happened is a number of the senior guys didn't want to drive. They just, and I didn't want to drive either. I had like 4 years on the job, right? So I really didn't want to drive, but they were stuck. So he was saying, the captain said, we'd really like you to go to chauffeur school. So I went, and that's what he said. Oh, you'll only do backups and vacations, so you'll hardly ever drive. And what
Heard
happens
that
is,
before.
you wind up with details to 50 engine, 46. It sucks. So I wound up. I was really. There's nothing worse than standing outside, looking up. And everybody else is having fun, and it just kind of gets old really quick, right? And so a spot opened up in 44, so I put in for it, and I was lucky.
He's lucky again. He's a very lucky guy, man.
Keeps getting lucky.
You should have been back there playing cards, Joe.
I've never done this before.
My dad was retired by then, so I think
I was retired by then. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Denny.
Yeah.
How long? Hold on. How long were you in '92 for before you transferred?
6 months.
just about 4 years, a little over 4 years.
I was going to say, if you say 6 months, I'm going to freaking
4
strangle
years,
you.
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
And
I was in '92 6 months, and I just got lucky. I wound up in 4. I never did it.
I was in there 4 years.
Listen, that's good. 4 years in the engine. That's good.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's
spent 4 years there, 3 in 43, and 1 in. So I spent 8 years total. 35, 43, and
Right. No,
and then
that's good.
so then I went to the truck, and by the time I went to the mat, I was almost 52. And
Oh yeah, you said because you got out late, right? You were in your 30s.
Oh
What?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
You were older than dirt when you came to the mat.
oh, and what's funny is when you first get on, you can see it. Like the senior guys who look ancient, they're like 51 years old. And like you're 25. Well, in my case, I was 32. They just look so much older. And you don't even think about it like that they were beat up. You're just thinking like, wow, that's an old guy.
Yeah.
And
Tough paper route.
Yeah. So you start looking at this, and it kind of creeps up on you. I remember one guy in 14 truck, Danny Peters said to me, he goes, enjoy the time while you can. He goes, because 20 years goes by in the blink of an eye. And at the time, when you're 30 years old, you can't imagine that. You look at that and you go, 20. It's like that's 2/3 of your life at that point already, right? So you go,
Right.
That's not going to be flying by, but it flies by. It goes very quickly.
Joe, when I got on the job, I remember saying to myself, I got on in '93. I remember saying, 20 years, 2013, right? There's no way. I mean, it just seemed like a gazillion years from that time. And then before I knew it, like you said, I was like 2 years out, and I'm like, there's no way. Obviously, I mean, I wasn't retiring. I wanted to do 30, but like you said, it seems such a long ways away, and
absolutely, yeah,
it happens so fast.
Yes, it flies. It is, especially when you're having fun. When I at the end of my first year, I bought a co-op up in Inwood, actually, so the commute into the Bronx was a lot easier than coming up. When I was in Staten Island, I would go up the Turnpike, the Jersey Turnpike, to the George, and then down. And I knew a bunch of guys from Staten Island, and they would go, when are you coming back to Staten? When are you coming to Staten Island? And I'd go like, once you're in a place, you love the guys, right? So I go like, never. And then they would go, I'm making twice as much overtime, and half as much work.
And
I used to say, somebody once said, yeah, I wouldn't want to be there. Like that's dangerous or something like that. I think somebody said, and I said to them, this is a safe, for me, the way I look at it. It's the
it was
safest place
safer
to
being
be.
busy. Absolutely.
Everybody
Being sharp.
in the house wants to be there, right? They all
Yes,
transferred.
I agree.
They transferred. They stayed there. The guys who didn't want to be there got out. So everybody loves what they do.
I agree.
And the worst place to be is a place where they do one job in 6 months. And so you might not have a job in 2 years. And now it's like a Chinese fighter. You're running around the rig. You don't know where anything is.
You have no experience.
That's the worst.
Absolutely, man.
I used to go, I can't believe there's more guys aren't hurt from those places than,
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree 100%. You know,
we used to drill all the time, especially when you had guys like Feiner and John Camaraderie around. You did a fair amount of work, so you tried to stay ready for it. And the officers were excellent. That's the other thing. You have excellent officers and the chiefs in the places like the 12th Battalion or the 19th, the 17th, the
it was
5th
solid
Division
back then, right?
Yeah, the 6th Division. They had like Chief Kilker. Tommy Moran was in the 7th Division. Guys, they were just awesome, and they were firemen's chiefs. They really took care of guys.
Yeah. Old school guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, when did you decide, without skipping, past too much in 44 truck, but when did you decide that you wanted to make a move to the mat or something like that, like to get a change?
Well,
just time?
What happened was I think I was about 50. I already had like 5 hours of surgery on my left knee, and I wasn't recovering the same, for a couple of years. I started to notice that I wasn't recovering the way I used to, and then we had a drill. I think I had just turned 50, maybe 4 months before. And, I think it was Captain John Sullivan was working. So he goes, hey, Joe, take out the 35 and throw it up. So I've done that a million times. So I take out the 35, throw it up. And I do. And I feel it more in the arms and the shoulders and everything. And I go, man, I got it up, never stop pushing. I went right
well,
up.
That's good, Joe. You got to get it up occasionally. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So I got the ladder right against the building, raised the halyard, but I was going at that point. It really showed that, like, I go, I'm not what I once was. So I started thinking about it. I started looking at places, and the mat was like culture shock because
oh my God.
First off, I was never in a SOC unit, right? And never really wanted to be in it. And it wasn't like I wasn't one of them guys who looked down at SOC or anything like that. Rescue 3 ran in with all those companies, and Rescue 3 was a great group of guys. Garrett Lindgren and guys like that. They were all really, really good guys, and they were all gentlemen. It wasn't that. It was just like I used to say. There was a guy from 44 that was looking to go over to 3. To go to Rescue 1 at one point, and he was getting a tryout. And I'm a dick, so I'll admit it, I'm a dick. So I said to him, Billy, why would you leave a first due truck to go to a fourth due truck? And, well, he didn't really speak to me much after that. But when I got to the mat and I saw what the squad did, and all the drilling, all of the skills that they learned, you look at it and you're going, there is a lot to that. There are different aspects of the job that you don't see anywhere else. You don't do the rigging, you don't do any of the stuff that a lot of the rescues and squads do. So you see it, and you see the value in it. So I was very impressed. There's a HazMat picture. I was very impressed with the way the squad ran its shop, and the mat itself. It was just I'd never been in a place like that. I think I said to somebody earlier on, I probably shouldn't have, because they're a younger guy, and I think he left there, around 2009 when he had that little thing going on, And what happened was he's arguing with one of the other younger fellas at the time, and he says to me, walking by, and he goes, Joey, and he goes, yeah. He goes, tell him that this is the same as any other firehouse. And I looked over and I said, what?
It's not the same.
This is not like any other firehouse you'll ever see in your life. And I think I said to him, I feel like I'm semi-retired. For me, this is like semi-retired. There were nights, like I'd never been in a place where we did less than 6, 8 runs in a night.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that was a slow night. And then you go to Matt, and they when they go to things, they're out there for hours, 3, 4 hours.
Right, exactly.
But there's sometimes some nights where they didn't really
of course,
do much.
Well, listen, it's not much hazmat stuff always going on. So
right.
Plus now you have all the other companies doing stuff. So
yes.
It was like you said, it was
the other issue was the overtime shocked me because I didn't do any research before I checked it out. I wound up it was just I was stunned by the amount of overtime there initially was. It was just my wife was even more stunned.
That's a good word. Stunned.
It was kind of crazy.
Hold on, Joe. Do you like your wife?
Yeah, she's the best. Yeah.
So that's good. So that's
what's up with me. So
I know. Listen, I know. I'm just fooling around.
I'm constantly amazed at that. But
that's so funny.
That was a culture shock. Oh, and by the way, on that one, I definitely got a favor too. I'm looking around, and I'm looking at HazMat, and I had like a little bit, and somebody said, "Oh, you should use degree and go to HazMat." I'm thinking, first off, I've forgotten everything I learned 20-something years ago, 30 years ago. So I go, I speak, Jimmy Daly was in 92 Engine, the chief.
Right. Right. That's right. Yep.
He was chief of stock, right? So I call up Jimmy Daly, and he goes to me, I had about 20 years on already, so he goes to me, look, I guess a lot of guys went over there and they suck up a year's overtime and book, right?
Yeah,
so goes,
right.
I'm going to give me at least 5 years there, and we're good. So I put in for it then on that, and Brian Smith was the captain, and I get a phone call interview. So Brian calls me on the phone and he says to me, this and that, and then the next thing is, how much time you got? And I go, 20 years. And so, we don't take anybody with over 15 and under 5 or something like that. So this was in, I don't know, the end of the summer of 05 or whatever it was. And I go, all right. And I forgot about it. And, about 3 days after Christmas, John Berner, a lieutenant in the MAT, calls me up, and we had a guy, Liam Flaherty. You know Liam. He was he was he was a fireman in 44, and he was a big phone guy. Right, he would just mess with people on the phone. He'd call up firehouses and tell them that their warning lights on the top of the firehouse are out, and air traffic control needs them on. He would call, say he needs the shots, and he needs the serial numbers on the inside officer side tire on the rear, so the guy have to get on the sked and everything like that. So John Berner calls up and he goes, "You're coming over." I'd forgotten completely about that. I even thought about the place. I figured I'll put my time in, and whenever it comes up, whenever my number comes up, I'm done. I know I have a shelf life at some point. It's not going to be a lot longer in a place like that. So fuck it. So he says to me, you're coming over. And I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. So I go, coming over where? And he's like, you're coming over to HazMat 1 on January 7th. So I go, I'm thinking, Liam. And I go, get the fuck out of here. And I hang the phone up on him, right? And about 30 seconds later,
he must have said he thinks somebody's screwing with him. He probably absolutely thought that, right?
The phone. So I picked the phone up and he goes, don't hang up. You're on the order. You're coming here on the 7th of January. And, sure enough, everything he said was correct. He goes, look, Day tours are long. He goes, you finish committee work, and we're a lot of times on the road the whole day. You know, he goes,
The
night
whole
tours.
day, Joe. The whole day. We wouldn't see you guys the whole day.
Yes. And so it was so crazy. So everything he said was correct. You know, like, it's like the night tours, a lot of times we don't, do a lot of night tours and stuff. So, but I wasn't prepared for the characters, like, there were guys that weren't just Firehouse characters. That's the best way to put that, I think.
Yeah.
Barrett.
You had Barrett there, right? He was a
Barrett. Well, some of the guys came like that. Barrett was from 59. I didn't work with him, but
he was. I didn't know that.
He knew me, and he goes to me, what we're there, and he's maybe there for like 3 months, and he goes to me, Joey, let me ask you something. So I go, yeah. He goes, when you got here, did you ever think about like leaving and going back? And I go, John,
hell yeah,
for the whole first fucking year, all I thought about was,
killing myself.
Like 17 guys on the fucking roster. Like the only way out of here is to punch the officer in the face. And that's really not going to work out really good for you, So what happened was, Bobby Stroh. Bobby Stroh was messing with him.
God.
And I'm thinking to myself, I go to Bobby one day, like, guy, he's fucking Sasquatch.
He's huge.
He's like 6'5", and I go, what are you doing with this guy? He's gonna have enough one day and just freaking kill you. Yeah.
Well,
but
Joe, the whole thing is, right? I mean, because if you come from 92, 44, right? If you come from a busy place, right? You're at the end of the career and you want to learn something new. Maybe you want to do a couple years there. Think about how much training you had to do, right? For the guys who were doing that, for the captain there and the chiefs of the mat, right? To put all that effort into you for 2 years, it's a lot of work, right? It's 100%. Just too much work for somebody who's going to bail.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really a tough spot that they have there,
I completely understood, Captain Smith's view on that, and I can only assume Jimmy Daly must have leaned on him, because that's the only reason I think I wound up coming over there. But like you said, I think my first 3 years, I think I went to like 17 schools in
it's incredible, incredible amount.
In a million years, coming from one of those places, right? You'd never think the fire department would send you.
Well, that's why it's culture shock.
Dugway, Utah,
Alabama
school, right? You go to bomb school, rad school,
all that. So like, it's amazing. You're on these planes and you go, wow, I can't believe. So I used to always say, the education was great, but the tuition was very steep.
That's true. But you know what they had? I tell you one thing. From Kevin and I, when we were there early on, right? The mat was a totally different animal. When I came back as lieutenant, and when I saw, obviously I worked with you when you were in the mat. The guys, it seemed like it was much more. I don't know, without getting too crazy. You know what I'm saying? It was much more regimented. What was it?
There was guys in the mat who were more into it later on, as opposed to when we first got there. There was a lot of guys, I hate to say, hiding out or there for the overtime or didn't want to see fire anymore, So you want to talk about culture shock. You got HazMat before the squad was in there. They had a extremely slow engine, and basically they did everything in the house for HazMat, right? So, and they were, slow engine, not strong personalities, didn't really care about if they went to another fire. Now they got a whole firehouse full of senior guys and young guys who all they're doing is looking to go to fire.
Vinegar, right?
And all they want to do is break HazMat's balls. So, I mean,
oh my God,
it was such a clash in the beginning.
Well, when I first got there, it was night and day, tour to tour. Like, you'd work one day and it would be Dom Trolley, Dougie Robinson, Timmy Regan, all these guys who had spent time there and were really professional guys.
Iovino.
Yes, Iovino. And then the next day you'd work with like Romper Room, and it would be a bunch of the really young guys, and it was different, very different. And part of it was the squad guys called it out. And because in the beginning, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, yeah, like this. Why is one tour better than so much better than the other? And I don't know whether it was Velarde or somebody like that going, what are these young guys doing here in the mat? Duck and fire. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, like that's part of like what? Why would I remember I was in house watch with one guy, and I didn't know how much time he had, but he had very little time at the time. I never really look at somebody and just judge like, oh, you got 6 months or 3 years, whatever, right? So I think one of the officers that was a little bit crotchety was coming in, JC, and I won't.
No names.
And I go.
That's Jesus Christ to you, sir.
And I go to him. I go to the guy, the younger guy, and I go, oh, fuck. I go, thank God, I'm closer to the end of my time than the beginning. I could not imagine spending like another 5 fucking
20 years,
or 10 years in this fucking shithole, and he wasn't like.
He was just like, wait a minute, I'm spending my rest of my career here.
That wasn't really.
That
where
was
he
his plan. Yeah.
So I'm looking at it going, oh, if I could have stayed 35 years old, I would have I would have never left. If I wasn't falling apart, I wouldn't. I'd never go there.
Right.
And I was well prepared at that point. I go when Captain Smith said, Nolo Contandre, I'm like, oh fuck it, whatever
no big
happens.
deal, right? Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe I'll go back to the engine and fucking get the seat in the engine and drive for the end of my time.
Yeah. You know what, Joe?
Yeah.
Kevin says it all the time. Like, there's a place for everybody, right? So, thank God we have some of those guys that are doing the HazMat stuff, right? So it's not for everybody. Some of those,
right.
You don't
geeky
want to
guys,
be going on the floor above with this guy on the nozzle, and
But at the same time, when he shows up at the HazMat incident, and
you're like,
meters and shit, I'm like,
thank God,
thank God.
Good.
So Salvo and Monaco have their own podcast, right? The HazMat guys.
They do, yes, the HazMat guys. Yep.
They're all guys who are really into it, really, really excellent. And I was glad to be there for the time. I've always said that extended my time. I can't put a number on it, but definitely all of the guys that I worked with at 44, all of them, like Todd Valton and John South, all these guys,
all retired way before you.
Yeah, and, because you just get beat to death.
Getting on and off the ring. Yeah, of course.
I wound up with the left knee. What happened was, it was kind of funny. We wound up in February of 2000. We get called on a second alarm over to Washington Heights, and we're overhauling. And I remember there was a solid wood door frozen to the ground, but I didn't realize it was frozen to the floor. But there's water all over, and it's 8 degrees, 10 degrees. And I go to pull it up, and I snap some muscle right between my shoulder blades. It's freaking killing me, right? So back then, the guys go, I can hardly breathe without pain. So go up to the lieutenant and I go, I'm done. I go, I pull something, and he goes, well, get the bus. He goes, in the meantime, why don't you take these guys' masks down? So they load me with one mask on one shoulder. So I'm going down, and this is the funny thing. I wound up going down this it's like an old brownstone, and I go down the steps, and it's covered with water, but it's ice, right? It's a river of ice down the stairs. And I go sliding down the last 3 steps and hyperextend my left knee, and I wound up with a golf ball size knot, like they called it a Baker's cyst on the back of my knee.
Yep.
So I go in to the hospital, and I'm telling them, the bus never came, so they drive me with 44's rig over to the emergency room, right? And every bump we hit, freaking murder. It's like it feels like somebody's sticking a knife in my back. So I get in there, and they bring down there's 2 interns, and I guess they bring down a resident. It's a woman who's an orthopedist. So she goes to me, hey, I'm not worried about the back, And I'm thinking, that's the thing I'm worried about because that's killing me, right? And she goes, no, I'm looking at that Baker's cyst on the back of your knee. Yeah, that has to be looked at.
Oh,
and so I go to get something in writing, because when I go back to the medical office, they're not going to take my word for it that needs to be looked at. Yeah, so she writes it out, and I forget who the doctor was, but it was either Dr. Giuliani or one of the hard timers kind of back then. And the guy says to me, come back in 10 days. So I come back, and he goes, I before he says that, I go to him, the orthopedist there said to get this looked at, like an MRI or something. And he goes, and I give him the sheet of paper she wrote, right? And he goes, oh, no, that's just an intern. And I go, no, the interns brought down this woman, I guess it was an orthopedist, to look at this. And he goes, no, don't worry, come back in 10 days. So when I come back, I haven't been doing anything for 10 days. He goes to me, so does it feel any better? And I go, yeah, a little better. Is there any salt?
When you go back to work.
And what's funny is that's what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear somebody going, yeah, we're going to have to freaking operate on your knee or something like that. So, yeah, it's a little sore. Good. Full duty Tuesday, so I
Next.
full duty Tuesday.
Next.
Right? So, yeah. And I wound up, I'm using the leg press machine because my leg is still sore. But I go, fuck it. I start doing the leg press thing. And the times I noticed it was I'd have the roof sometimes. And the roof guy shuts where we were. You'd shut the apparatus doors, and then you run after the rig and jump on. And, that was still a little bit sore doing that, But I figured, I'd keep building up the muscles around it. In May, we get another job in a fireproof, and I slide down another set of stairs, and now the thing's like twice as big and as hard as a rock, right? So they send me for an MRI, and they schedule the surgery in the end of the summer because nobody's doing anything in the summer, right? So it's like September I get the surgery. And the doctor I see, Dr. Kraus, goes, all the time that you've been on this thing from February, because you saw the whole medical thing. He goes, all the time you've been on your knee from February to now? And I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, you've been doing more damage to it every day. So when they were going to do the surgery, initially it was going to be like that arthroscopic thing. And you can watch it. It's going to be a half hour. And the anesthesiologist is standing next to me when I'm getting ready. And I see the guy in front of me, and they're putting an epidural in him. You get those things before these. So I'm listening to them like, hey, don't move, because if you move, we could, damage your spinal cord or something like that. So I'm thinking to myself, that sucks. So I go to the guy, so I look at him and I go, you know what? I'm not going to watch this. I go, I don't even watch when they take blood. I have no interest in it. You might as well put me under. So the guy goes, ooh, can't do that anymore. We'd have to intubate you. And I go, what? I go, I had my tonsils taken out. That was the last time I was in the hospital. I go, I had my tonsils taken out when I was a kid. And they just slapped a mask over my face and said, count backwards from 10. And he goes, I don't do that anymore. So he had the stopcock thing in my wrist, right? And he turns the whatever that
You're getting the good stuff now, baby.
Bam! I'm like, it's like there's somebody just turned the lights out.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. Now it's dark. I'm in the recovery room when it's dark. So I'm looking at that. I can't figure this out. So I go to myself, maybe they blacked out the windows, right? Maybe that's, it's the recovery room. Maybe they blacked them out. It can't be that, like it's dark already. So sure enough, he comes in the room and he goes, by the way, it wasn't a half hour. It was more like 4 hours and 53 minutes.
No shit.
Yeah. So you're never the same after something like that,
I had the same experience. Yep. On my wrist. And after it was supposed to be 30, 40 minutes, 2 hours later, I've never had the same wrist since. Yeah. Having a cyst in the wrist.
What's that?
All right, Joe. Let's get back to the book, Joe. So let's get back to the book. We're going off the rails a little. I got to reel them in a little bit.
Yeah.
So what makes you decide to write the book, other than the fact that you like to talk?
Well, that's mainly it. And partly it was, I've been writing most of my life, I think people see me on Facebook all the time because I'm always writing these crazy rants,
Right.
So I had a blog. I was writing. So I just started putting this stuff together, and it became a big project because it's really hard to, as you know, you have to be careful how you tell, especially like you try to tell the
I
a true
understand,
story
Joe.
about what
Allegedly.
happened. Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of allegedly, and yet you have to be cautious. But what I really thought about later was you see a lot of people besmirching that era, and even the era before the war years, and then the post-war years, which would probably be the 80s and beyond. And I looked at that and I go,
people are
they need,
besmirching the Warriors because I've never.
well,
I mean,
in this
I'm not
regard,
understanding. What do you mean?
I'll tell you what I mean. What I've heard people say is, oh, those guys, they drank, they did all this, if you listen to the critics, people would say like, oh yeah, they it was a reckless era. These guys, they drank heavily and stuff like that. And you go, no, every place I've been that I worked, I can honestly say there were. Everybody was professional. Everybody handled themselves. They wanted to go to fires. They wanted to do the work, and it needs to be defended. Because it has been under attack. Because the job has changed, and you can see it. You guys mentioned it. The Atlanta captain, what was it, Dwyer? Dan Dwyer was suspended for going in alone. Which years ago, in that era. If the inside team didn't go in with the captain, they would have been in trouble.
Right.
For not, like in other words, what are you guys doing not keeping up with the officer? He's 15 years older than you guys. What are you doing not being in there with him? So there was no excuse for that. Now it's that he's in trouble, right? So it's a different job. There's people trying to make how can I say not excuses, but they're trying to rationalize that lowered standards and stuff like this has that we still have a better, it's a better workforce, in some ways. It's more professional workforce.
What, today?
Yeah, that's what they're claiming. People, people who are advocates of this, of the new situation. And I look at that and I go, you do need to defend that. There's a lot of things that are said that are not at all true about that era. I don't know enough. Like I know my father worked all the way through that era, and John Goss and a lot of people I worked with, but I don't have first-hand knowledge. I have their stories, like when guys would pull up to a block. I'm sure you guys have all heard these, where there'd be 4 buildings on fire, and then 120 would take this. Okay, they got the southeast corner, and then 103 would take and he said that happened all the time back in that era. And that you have to be a highly professional and highly motivated person to work under those conditions. So they do need to be defended, and I think that was part of the impetus that the era deserves to be defended, and so many of these guys deserve to be remembered. The only part I feel bad about is I know only a small sliver of that era. East Harlem, the University Heights section of Morrisania in the Bronx, met a lot of great guys. Like you said, people should remember John Calamari's, and that's why I think that what you guys are doing is great, because now John Calamari lives forever. If Mike Everett, Mike Milner, all these guys, and they deserve to be remembered. They're exceptional people.
I wrote a short Cliff Note version about people who besmirched those guys. It would be like this: "Suck it!" That would have been the end of that, bro. Cliff Notes version right here. We guys suck it.
It's amazing.
I think my experience on this show has been only ever hearing excellent stuff about these kinds of guys. I guess that's our show. But, with Danny Dwyer, you brought him up before, he had told us he was ordered to go in that building. So that was a total CYA, allegedly, cover your ass situation. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I think you're differentiating between the politics and then the hard chargers who went in and did it in the old days. You know.
Yes. Well, partly that's true. I think partly though, there are people today that are like in defending the current era, and there've been issues with how can you say to be, let's put allegedly, an alleged lack of aggressiveness in some cases, you know, and that's rationalized by some people by attacking the previous eras as being reckless. You know, these guys, you know, they didn't even know what they were doing. They didn't know all the risks. And so, and you go, guys knew the risks. You know, our safety, you know, like this thing now of where our safety is number one. It used to be maybe third, maybe fourth. You know, in any of those places, 35, 43, I'm sure the same thing with 103, 108, you know, 102, all those places. If aggressiveness was currency, you had to be aggressive or you got out. You know, if you didn't like the work, you'd be asked to leave. You know, not like it wasn't like you that they well, like a punishment. It was kind of like, hey, this isn't working out. You know, maybe you'd like Staten Island a little better. You know, and
yeah, there's an ass for every seat, bro.
There you go.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, man. You know, today's motto of, you know, everybody gets a trophy, and even last place got the trophy. Yeah, that didn't cut it back then, bro. You know.
No.
I mean, even when you look at the faces and the pictures of the guys that you've just been showing, it's a more basic, old school, fun togetherness. Like when you see those pictures, man, those guys, the looks on their face, man, you know, with the coat open and after a job, and it's a total different look. I pass guys on the street now in the job, and it looks totally different. It looks, first of all, half of them on their phone, you know.
Yeah, you were bonded to a crew. I remember shortly before I left the mat, not a few years, there was a young guy, and you know, again, you know, I won't mention anybody's name, but it was not a big thing. But what was funny was, we came back from a day's, you know, drilling and stuff. It's like I had the 3x watch, so we got there. Maybe we got back to quarters around 4, and Dom Charlie was detailed back from the battalion to work in the mat. So he's outside washing the rig by himself. So John McCoy was walking by, and I go, John, would you listen up for a little bit? You know, I didn't want to leave Dom out there. So me and him wound up. I tried to get him to leave. Me and him wound up washing the rig. So Maloney and Hollingsworth were working back then, and they were both on, and they were doing an air tool drill on the apparatus floor, and they come out, they put everything away, and they come out to help us out. But you know, I said to them, we got it. It's virtually done. On the way out, John Hollingsworth gave a yell over the PA. He said, "Yeah, go ahead. Let the two 25-year guys wash the rig." And, I didn't hear that. But that's what he said. And the reason I know it is two of the senior guys, more senior guys
Wayne?
were. No. It was John, Rudge, and they were doing the bio thing. But that was not an issue. There was a young guy up in the TV room, so he comes down, and he's all ticked off. So he comes up to Hollingsworth and gets into his face like a manager in a baseball game, and he goes, "Did you make that? Did you make that announcement?" And Hollingsworth goes, "What announcement?" And he goes, "You know." And he goes, "Look," he goes, so Hollingsworth goes, "So tomorrow, if you're not here, and I hear something over the bitch box, I can just say it's you, and it's okay, right?" And it flusters the kid. So the guy goes, "No, I." So Hollingsworth goes, "Well, just shut the fuck up and do your job," right? So I was all pissed off. So I went over to the young guy, and I go to him, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Oh, nothing. The guys are getting cunty or something like that." So I go, "Oh, what happened?" And he goes into what he said. He goes, they go, "Yeah, let the 25-year guys watch the resume." I go, "Okay, what else?" And he goes, "That's it." So I go, "Dude, let me tell you something. Where I was, if if we had a job at like 4:00 in the morning and I get something in my eye, if I tell the guys that I got something in my eye and I got to wash it out, yeah, they'll let me do that. But if I make a beeline to the bathroom to wash my eye out while they're cleaning the tools and shit, I'm not going to go ahead and let everybody else wash the tools. I'm going to hear, Kearney, get your ass down. Yeah. And I go to them, you know why? They go, they're right. They're right to do that because that's bonding you to a crew, to think of them before you think about yourself. That's the way you're supposed to do things. And he never got that through his head. He thought that I was, so he says to me, that's not how it is in most places.
That's how he figured that.
So I look at him and I go, I go to him, God.
Don't say the name.
I won't. I go, I haven't been in one place. I go, I've been around, right? I've been in some other houses. I go, there may be some shitholes, like some,
fuck shops.
Places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Some
Exactly.
fuck shops that operate like that. But I go, I've never seen them, and I go, they're few and far between from what I've seen, and this is the way it is, and that's what made that job great. And the idea that people. Somebody later said,
Joe, you know what the biggest problem of that whole conversation is? He was focused on the wrong thing.
Yes.
Right? He was focused about the conversation that came over the bitch box when he should have been focused on the fact that he was an absentee landlord when he came to work, right? So he was focused on trying to blame somebody for calling him out as opposed to why he was being called out.
Exactly right. Exactly.
And that's how most of it is nowadays, it seems. Most of the time, guys, if they're not picking up why they're in the fucking in the shit is because they're not. It's not sinking in. They're more concerned, like you said, about themselves than as about the team.
I think that's why people denigrate sometimes, like some of the old days, to kind of make it like, no, this is no, like that kind of. His view was this is normal, and a lot of people want to believe that this is this.
With the new normal. Right,
and it's not normal, like compared to the way things were. And I look at it and I go, I remember saying to my dad when I was in college, he was a World War II guy, and I remember saying to him, I go, the only thing you guys did wrong was you spoiled your kids, and it was the only thing, because I could see it. My mom's father, my grandfather, built his own house, him and one other guy. Framed it, plumbed it, electric, everything. They just, I'm looking at that going, I could never do that. My father, 18 years old, raised through the Depression, right? Raised through the Depression, goes into World War II at 18 or, I think 17. And he goes in there and you're looking at that going, he was a man. He was a man at 18 in a way that I was a man.
There's no men left.
25, John. Right. You look at that and you're going, today, and it's only gotten more pronounced, like each generation.
That thinking is becoming more of the normal now, as opposed to the abnormal, where you'd be like, "What the fuck's this guy doing, man?"
Started the one where everybody gets a trophy. I don't want to hurt Timmy's feelings. Right. It's like, dude, you might want to hurt Timmy's feelings. Maybe he'll work harder. It's the same thing today, where you'll see things where you're seeing it now with the this administration with the really. With the science schools, Bronx Academy of Science and Stuyvesant, there's too many Asians getting in, and then let's have quotas for everybody else. And you're looking at it, go, no, why don't we have everybody else work harder?
Right.
So, compete with those.
No.
A very wise man said, I don't know if you ever heard this quote, Pete. If you're not first, you're last, Ricky Bobby. That's how it should. Be, bro.
That's copyright 2019, Ricky Bobby Inc.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, Joe. Is there anything in the book that you wanted to maybe just mention that you don't have to go into too much detail? Obviously, we want the guys to buy the books. And
what was funny is when I first got there, it was 35 wasn't like 43 and 92 in terms of like all the running around, and it took me about. I think I was on 4 or 5 weeks, probably closer to 5 weeks before I got my first real job. I had a couple of like small things in a vacant and stuff like that. And my first fire, everything that could go wrong just about went wrong. So it was kind of like funny in a way, not funny at the time. But what happened was they had this fish fry on a Friday night, and there was a guy, Joe Magus, who died later that year in an accident, and really good guy. Reminded me of Joe Namath for some reason. But Joe Magus was off, right? He was allergic to fish, and for some reason, he was off, but he thought he was working, and he fucks up the mutual, and he winds up mutualing himself onto the fish fry that he didn't want to be on. Right? He finds out this out. Like, he figures this out like 2 days before the thing. Like, now it's Friday. It's like Wednesday night, right? And I'm working, and he's going home, and he goes, "Can you work?" He asked me, "Can you work for me Friday?"
Yeah.
At the time, back then, I don't know how it is today, but you couldn't work mutuals or go into the TV room or anything like that for at least 6 months as a probie, right? In fact, most of the time, as a probie, you weren't supposed to be caught, doing that.
Yeah, so you're off probation.
So they Captain Palazzolo was the engine captain at the time, and he was working. So he gives me a special dispensation to get, Joe Magus off the hook, right? That's the only reason I'm working. So I get to work the fish fry, and it was awesome. It was like $28, which back then, this is like 86. That's a lot of money. Probably like $50 today or something like that, right? Nonstop, shrimp,
Fish,
lobster. It's just awesome. So we're eating all night. I'm in the sink.
you didn't tell your wife that, Joe, did you?
What's that?
It's
So
always hot dogs and bologna sandwiches, right?
Oh,
Would
yeah.
she ask you what you ate at the Firehouse?
Hot dogs.
Well, I'm cleaning up all the pots and everything, and it's around going on 1 o'clock, and just about done. And I used to always stay up pretty late, especially when you're first on. You're all wired up and everything. And one day we get a relocation run, and they send us up to 69 engine. So on the way up, I remember this is that we're heading up. We see smoke coming out of little wisps of smoke coming out of two windows on 125th, past 36. Well, because we're heading up towards 5930. So the officer was Charlie McCaffrey, and he says, "Let me take a quick look." He runs up the fire escape, takes a quick look, and it's basically rubbish in an apartment. So he does something that we never do, right? You remember they used to have that pink 1-inch. Did you guys ever have the pink 1-inch booster line?
The booster line, yeah.
Yeah, the reel,
On the reel. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So he had me take that up the fire escape with one other guy, and we knocked it down with the booster line. It was nothing. It was like just some garbage in the room, right? So we head on up. We get up to 6928, the Harlem Hilton, and about a half hour, 40 minutes later, the truck comes back. And just as they're coming back and getting into quarters, a run comes in. And I think the run came in for the box that was the address that they had
Across
just
the street where you are.
So he goes,
Rekindle, Joe.
Right, that's what he goes. He goes, "I hope that's not the same box we just came from," right? And yeah, I remember thinking, I'm going, why would somebody say that? I mean, I had very little time on, but I'm thinking, why would you say that? Because the old school guys used to say, "There's no such thing as a rekindle." That was the old thing.
Put it out yourself, exactly. You're not calling anybody.
So we started heading out towards this box that was the address, and I guess that the dispatcher corrects it, and we all go into that box. We're going back to their box.
Boy.
Right?
To that
And we
address.
arrive there, and it's blowing out every window on the top floor. Right? And, because I've seen this before, and it's like a tower ladder job. 14's a tower ladder or anything. So I'm going, I know where we're going with this. They're just going to tower ladder this. So I'm on the back step. I'm just sitting there like all dejected. And John Goss comes up and he goes, "Saddle up." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "We're going in." And so I throw my mask on and get there. I go up the stairs, and this is my first time seeing what a fire is like. You see all the flames going out the window. You get in there, and every set of stairs just gets darker and darker. Your throat closes up. Like your nose is burning. Your throat, starts taking the starch out of you. Like by the time you're up on the 4th floor, you're like, "All right, that's pretty."
Maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Is this what I really wanted?
Yeah. And now you have to throw your gloves down. You pull your boots up. I'm putting the webbing of my mask on. I get everything on, and now I can't put my helmet back on. The helmet won't go over my head. And John Goss had the door, so he's third in line. And Richie Polizio, another senior guy, he's the backup. So I'm frantic, and I turn to Richie Polizio and I go, Richie, give me a hand, will you? And he looks at me, and I can't see it, but my eye shields, a screw came loose in my eye shields, and one side is down. It won't allow the helmet to go out over my mask, over the face piece. So he looks at me like a 9-year-old who just broke his bike, and he's like, "Oh God!" Right? And he goes, "Give me," and he snaps the other side of the eye shields off. So I'm like eye shield free, and I turn my mask on real quick. Right? We go in, and that is 2 hallways to take, right? And 80 engine was in with us, so we were there first, but they take the good hallway, because that took us time to get shit together because my fucking eye shields got screwed up, right? So Richie looks at me, he goes, "All right, Joey." The other hallway I remember there was a refrigerator and a bunch of crap, just filled with garbage, right? And he goes, "Oh, sorry, guys." So he goes, yeah, this is what happens when you wind up handing the best hallway to the second dude engine. He goes, all that shit. So I start climbing, and we get in about 10 feet, and I had only turned my mask on. Back then, these are like those old 20-minute tanks and stuff like that.
Yeah, the big tanks, the steel one, yeah.
Turn them on all the way, right? And I just turned mine a few, so it seizes up on me. About 10 feet in, like my mask sucks to my face, right? And now I can't breathe. So I throw my face piece off, and Richie's behind me, and he goes, "Lean into the nozzle, lean into the nozzle. That's air pushing the water out." He goes, "You get a breath like that." And I hear him and McCaffrey, the lieutenant,
laughing,
talking, pushing it, and he goes, I remember Polizio going, "No, let him keep going for a while. It's good for him." And he they're going to towel, they're asking us to get out of here. They're going to towel at us in about 5 minutes. He goes, "Yeah, just don't answer them." And so it was a good experience. I come out, I find my mangled eye shields and stuff like that. I come out, and just like you were saying, I said, I'm thinking to myself, I know how my dad, that era, they didn't even wear masks at all. So I'm thinking, how the hell did those guys?
How the hell did they do that? Yeah, how did they do it?
And but they were all. Everything worked out because of the other guys. Like I owed Rich so much. He saw what was going on. He helped me out. John was
Yeah.
Those old rigs, we had no AC, we had no lights. You're right. There was just a stock rig, and every time you hit a pothole, your back would be like shock absorber. You'd be reverberating through your whole spine. And across from me was John Goss, and he goes. I remember his old saying was, I used to call people old paint. And you go, "Nice job, old paint." And he's sitting across me, all slouched down, with a cigarette sticking out of his mouth. And I remember saying to myself, "Wow, how can you smoke after that?"
After you took all that smoke, right?
He did, and just a great guy. And you look at that, and you're going, that you learn more by your mistakes. I thought about that so much ago. I didn't turn. I saw all the things. I didn't, like you check your gear. I never checked a screw in my eye shields, to see if they were connected. I never, I didn't think about how many times to turn the mask all the way on. I was in the moment. You're just kind of rushing to get it on, and those are the things you learn. You go, "Oh, I'll never do that again. I won't make that mistake and not turning my mask on all the way," and stuff like that. And
didn't he say to you, "Nice job, kid"?
Well, what's funny is about that painting. When
That's
that
what
came
I wanted
out,
to ask you. Yeah.
he said he always put himself in the paintings, and the older guy, that's him. That looks like John Goss. I later got a painting when my dad retired. I asked if he would do a painting and put all the companies that my dad worked in. Like he was a fireman in 201, a lieutenant in 6 truck. I think captain in 107 when it was a single truck. What was that? Sheffield Avenue? No, not Sheffield. I forget the
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Yes. When he then he was a chief in the 44th. Then he was in the 4th Division, the 5th Division. So he goes to me, and he was in the safety division before he got into the. He goes, those companies would never be there together. And I go, I know. It's just for that. So he put it, and the bottom left-hand corner. I thought this was so cool. He has his hand. It's him, because you can always tell him in the picture if you knew him. And he's got his hand up. He's a 4th Division chief, and he's got his arm around the 5th Division chief. And he goes, the 5th Division chief's your dad. And he goes, he always reminded me of Jimmy Cagney. And I remember thinking, I never thought of that, but yeah, I guess a little bit. But John Goss, it's exactly him. And he said to me, and that with the nice job, kid, he goes, that's supposed to be you and me. And
New Jersey Avenue.
You know what I felt bad about is I didn't know what to say. So I don't think I said anything. I was like flabbergasted, and then what happened is I commissioned a painting from him, and then you get on with your life, and you think somebody's going to be there forever, and he died in 1997, and on my appointment date, no less. And
Wow.
He was same year my dad died. My dad would die in November of that year. And it's something where you think you're always going to be able to touch base. Oh, I'll get back in touch with John.
Yeah, no doubt. Don't wait. Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to be thankful for every minute you got. And I think he knew how much he meant to me. Because and I'm blessed now that I've been able to stay in touch with his wife, Ginger, who was extremely gracious in allowing that painting to be used as the front cover.
Show that painting again, Pete. The front cover.
Yeah.
He was such an amazing guy. You see like the scuff marks on the back of the masks. You see his coat, right? You have
the guy on the left is new guy, right? He's got new stripes. He's got a salty stripe.
It's all oranged and burned up and everything like that.
Got the Bronx bend working there a little bit. It looks like.
Yep. So you look at that and you're going, but that's John on the right. That's John.
That's cool.
That's
Where
John.
do we find the book if we want to buy it there?
It's
JM Kearney.
It's live on Amazon now, both in Kindle and paperback.
Nice.
You just search the name, Joe?
Yeah, I think I tried it today. You can just put in a view from the Backstep, or you could even put in just my last name, even Kearney, and I think it still comes up.
I found it. Here I'll post it real quick. And there it is. Stand by.
Well, it was good talking to you, Joe.
Same.
You still got it.
There it is. A view from the Backstep on Amazon.
Yeah. Right on Amazon for everybody. Boom.
No.
Awesome.
And whatchamacallit, it's amazing what happens with the paperback. You wind up the printing costs and shipping come out of you. So like they drive up the price. In the beginning I was Kindle, you can put it at any price you want pretty much. But they give you a suggested price. But with the paperback, it was I'm figuring it'll be open, with like $8 or whatever the thing, and then you realize like, you wind up you can't go below a certain amount because
just for the shipping and everything.
Yeah, they'll tell you the cost of that.
Hey Joe, if this one hits it out of the park, the second one might be, you might have to sell the second one for $50 or something.
Oh no, I know. It is. I said to somebody before that it's really. I think I said in the beginning in the intro is even though I went over like the first fire, it's not about me. it's a tribute to these guys like John Goss, Herbie O'Brien, Jimmy Brownie in 43, Joe Kearney, Tommy White, John Calamari, those are really, I used to say, like, to me, the way I see it is, I worked really hard to be mediocre, and to come up to be the mediocre level. And there were so many other guys that were exceptional. And it was an honor to work with those guys. And very, very thankful. And to me, this is my
giving me
thank you.
goosebumps, Joe.
It's
Come on,
a thank you letter
I'll get the
to.
tissue out in a minute. Stop, will you?
No, I didn't mean
I
to
like
make
it.
you
Listen,
cry.
that's what's missing. That's
But it
what's
is.
missing.
It's a labor of love. It's a thank you letter to those guys, that time period, and and the people. That's who you miss, right? I mean, I miss when I think of the mat, I miss the kitchen table with you guys, with Velarde. I never got Barrett. I still want to do that. Not Finding Bigfoot show.
Yeah.
I was gonna have him in the Bigfoot suit. Throw me around. That way. See, like the hook would be, they have that show Finding Bigfoot, and they never find Bigfoot. I get it.
Never.
Like they keep thinking like there's a knock in the woods, and the guy thinks, yeah, that's definitely, yeah.
Joe, what are you doing when you're watching that, Joe?
I know I shouldn't be, but it's a guilty pleasure.
Read a book or something. Read a book.
I'm thinking like this.
Write a book.
I would do the thing where instead of going way out in the hoop looking for some squatch, we'll go into suburban areas, making like Bigfoot calls at 2 a.m., having the cops called on you. Yeah, and then in the interim, people would get the added bonus of some actual Bigfoot footage where Barrett or somebody big like that dressed in a Bigfoot suit with here's a swamp ape throwing me around in Bradenton, Florida. Here's a Bigfoot trashing me in outside of Denver, Colorado.
He's shot.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this puppy up. There's
Absolutely.
There's a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, just like I always say at the beginning of the show, it's the kitchen. We're bringing the kitchen table back to you guys because I know there's a lot of retired guys in here, and they like the banter that goes back and forth at the kitchen table. So we're bringing it back to you. And the other thing is for all the senior guys in here, the mid-level guys still working, and the junior guys. This is a place that you can come and learn what it was like in the old days and learn how to be a good fireman. And the senior guys and the mid-level guys take all the knowledge from guys like Joe and Hank and Fat Daddy Ray and Chief Bro, and you teach it to the guys because nobody else is going to do it. Not in this day, man. So learn from all these guys in here and take that shit back to your firehouse.
Oh, bless you guys.
And Joe, I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Oh, no. Thank you guys. Just it's a pleasure just to talk to you guys again. I remember those days.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you, Joe. You're a funny bastard.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah. Those were the days. It's funny. Even when I was in light duty, I was at Marine 6 at the end, and they had like a little bit of a firehouse kind of atmosphere there too. And you miss people wherever you are. And when I think back to 35 and 43, people go, "Do you miss it?" And then you go, "Yeah." I miss being 30 years old again.
Yeah.
I miss that most of all. But yeah, it is. It's not like any specific fire and stuff like that. You go, I miss the camaraderie. I miss the connection with the guys. That's really what
brutal
made
honesty.
the job. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if anybody missed it, and Chief Clearhouse said that 107 was a single truck on New Jersey Avenue is where they
Yes,
were.
New Jersey.
that's right. New Jersey, because Lincoln is where they are now with the
Correct.
With the engine,
Correct.
with the,
We mistook.
yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah.
So Ruffy, what do we
I
got
remember
coming
my-
up on Thursday? Oh, go ahead, bro.
My father had a T-shirt from 107, and I remember he brought it home, and it was a palm tree, and then there's like a ghetto scene behind it, like all these burned out buildings, and on the bottom of it was beautiful downtown Brownsville.
Yeah. No doubt.
So what do we got Thursday, Ruffy?
We got Norton. We got Tommy Burke from 111 / Squad 252 on Thursday.
He's a funny bastard. He's a funny guy. And we have all that other stuff coming up. As you can see, we're trying to give you guys different looks. So anybody else who's written a book, you want to get on here on the author's corner, I'll bust out my pipe again. You know what I'm saying, bro? I'll bust it out. Thank you.
We got that guy, a couple FDNY guys who came up with a new product that's going to be in the Inventor's Corner.
Inventor's Corner's coming up.
He actually has to get it run through the job. I guess he's got to go through the press desk or whatever. So once that's confirmed, we'll have him on. So I don't know if that'll be next week or not, but we'll play it by ear.
Wow. Yeah, 19, they had, I'm sorry, 1519 had the Oswald, remember the blanket for the fireproof buildings that you put down from the floor above? The two guys from 50 and 19 kind of set that up years ago.
Came up with that?
That's what we're looking for. We're looking for firefighter ingenuity, and we'll be having that on the Inventor's Corner. And the other thing we were talking about coming up soon, we don't want to give the details because there's a lot of thieves out there. So as soon as we have everything in line, we'll throw it out to you guys. You guys get it back to us, and we'll be out on the road to visit you fellas.
Big.
Might try and glom it. They might glom it.
Try and glom it. There's other guys, other guys will like to glom it.
It's also going to require, they're not going to be able to glom this one because it's going to require pretty much all the skills I've learned in 26 years of television. So good luck with that.
Look at that. Senior man in the television circuit.
Good luck with that, boys.
All right, Pete.
I just want to say one thing before we get into all the our usual stuff. One of our own, that's Susie, as everyone knows from the chat, was really ill today. She went into the hospital with a heart issue. So we just want to wish her well. I'm sure everyone in the chat is wishing her well right now. And I just wanted to say that real quick. But as you guys all know, if you're listening to us on audio right now, you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or wherever fine podcasts like this are found. Also, guys, if you are listening on audio, head over to youtube.com/Gettin Salty Experience. Take your little stinky digit right there and hit the like, the subscribe.
Joe, get your finger up, Joe.
Come on, Joe. Put it up. There you go. Hey. And then you get us the like, the subscribe, the share. Please share. And last but not least, hit the notification bell because YouTube sometimes is slipping. Go to Instagram.com and go to @SaltyDogInc, where Mr. Refrano over there.
Check this out, too.
Hold on. We're getting there. Hold on. We're getting there. We're not even there yet. Hold on. Minka. Hey.
Go.
Hold on. So go over to Salty Dog Inc. and give Mr. Refrano his props because that man works hard to curate awesome images and all the stuff you guys send us as well in the stories and stuff. Your great images of all your coolers and all the good stuff that you're drinking out of. And last but not least, GettinSaltyApparel.com is where you find t-shirts like the one that I'm wearing, the Bronx Bend. I like this one. One that Louis is wearing, the one that Mr. Joe's wearing, the All Lives Matter to First Responder shirt right there. And that, what does it say on the back? Right, Courage is Colorblind. Get that there as well. All your drinking accessories, and maybe one day we'll have our own pipe. What do you think?
Soon. Listen, also don't forget to pick up the book by Lou F.U. Fitzgerald. I hate all of you. Go fuck yourself. Leave me alone. On sale right now. Go pick it up. And P.D. Charles, I'm such a Dickens. Pick that one up. Oh my gosh. Where's my safe spot? All right, Pete.
All right, guys. Take us out.
All right, fellas. We'll see you on Thursday where me and Pete will be together on set. Is that what we're going to call it? We're going away.
Essentially, I got to talk to you about that. I might, because I have that big shoot on Thursday.
So what are you saying? We're not having the podcast Thursday? Is that what you're saying?
No, we are.
Oh, okay.
We are. We're having the podcast Thursday. I'm just not going to be. I might not be up there with you, but we'll talk about that later.
So I'll be there with your wife and my wife. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what I'm saying, Joey? Oh, yeah, man. Yep.
Chicka wow wow.
I'll be first do it Pizza Old Ladies box.
Oh my God.
You want to know why?
Because that's what men do.
Because that's what men do. What's up with that? Is that guy working on a shirt? That's what men do?
One last thing. Also, for anyone who's listening, to echo what Fireman is saying in the chat, go over to the Gettin' Salty Fans Facebook page. You go type in the search bar Gettin' Salty Fans on Facebook, and all the maniacs in the chat are in that group and sharing their photos.
Sweet.
And they're already planning group events as well.
Oh,
It's its own thing. I got nothing to do with it, but it's got. I see what goes on in there. God help us all. Getting Salty Fans on Facebook, guys.
All right, man. What else we got? Oh, there goes all my. Until we meet again. All right, fellas. Stay low and go.
All right, boys and girls. We'll see you at the big one. Joe, love you.